The market was almost silent now. Only the sound of chains clinking and sand crunching under heavy boots remained. The great auction of the night had ended. Every cage that once held desperate beings was now empty. Some were dragged away by their new owners. Others had already vanished into the shadows, their fate sealed. But one cage remained. It stood at the far end of the market, half covered by a torn black cloth. Torches burned low, throwing long flames across the bars. Inside, she sat quietly, her knees drawn to her chest. She was not like the others who had been sold. Her back was straight, her chin high, her eyes glowing faintly in the dim firelight. The buyers had all avoided her. Some had looked once and then turned away quickly, as if staring too long might invite a curse. Some whispered that she carried a mark. Others said her kind was dangerous. Whatever the reason, no one dared claim her. No one. Except him. The human stood still, his hands resting on the leather strap of his worn satchel. His clothes were plain, dusty from travel. He had no guards with him, no slaves of his own, no sign of wealth or power. He looked almost out of place. Here, in a market filled with alien lords, mercenaries, and traders. Yet his eyes were fixed on the cage. The auctioneer noticed him lingering. His voice was rough from shouting names and prices all evening. That one? He laughed bitterly, shaking his head. You don't want her, human. She's trouble, not worth the coin. But the human didn't answer. He stepped closer to the bars. Inside, the girl's gaze lifted. Her eyes were sharp, silver with faint streaks of violet. She looked at him as though she could see through his skin, down into his soul. She didn't beg, she didn't move. She only stared, proud and silent. The auctioneer spat into the sand. We kept her for last, hoping someone foolish enough would pay. But even the worst drunk knows better. Her kind burns through masters like fire through dry wood. If you're smart, you'll walk away. Still, the human didn't move. His voice, when he finally spoke, was low but steady. I'll take her. The words were simple, but they carried through the empty market like a storm. A few guards turned their heads. One merchant laughed nervously. Even the girl's eyes widened, just for a heartbeat. Before she masked her surprise with calm, the auctioneer froze, then leaned closer, lowering his voice. Human, listen, she's not like the others. She's marked. She was meant for war, not service. If she turns on you, not even chains will hold her. The human reached into his satchel. The sound of coins clinking broke the silence. He tossed a heavy pouch onto the wooden table beside the auctioneer. The bag landed with a dull thud, spilling 2 coins into the sand. That should cover her, he said. The auctioneer stared at the pouch, then at the human. His face twisted with greed and fear. At last, with a grunt, he signaled to the guards. Fine, she's yours. But don't come crying when she guts you in your sleep. The guards moved forward. One of them unlocked the cage with a large iron key. The rusty door creaked open. The girl remained seated, unmoving, her glowing eyes fixed on the human. Get up, one guard barked. Your new master has claimed you. Slowly, she rose to her feet. Chains rattled against her wrists and ankles, glowing faintly as if they were more than simple iron. Her figure was slender but strong, every movement graceful despite the weight of her shackles. She stepped out of the cage, the last slave of the night. The human extended his hand, not to strike her, not to pull her by force, but simply to guide. For a long moment, she stared at it. Then, with deliberate calm, she placed her chained hand into his. The market whispered. Some laughed, some shook their heads. But no one dared stop him. Together they walked into the night, the sound of her chains echoing across the empty stalls. As they passed through the gate, the auctioneer muttered under his breath, Foolish human. You've just bought your own death. But the human didn't turn back. He led her through the shadows, each step carrying them farther from the market, farther from the chains of others. but not yet from her own. Behind him, the girl spoke. For the first time. Her voice was soft, but it carried an edge like a hidden blade. Do you know what you've done? The human glanced at her. Yes, he said. I freed you. She gave a faint smile, half bitter, half curious. No. You bound yourself to me, and you don't even know what I am. Her words hung in the air, heavy with mystery. The human said nothing more, but his grip on her hand did not loosen. The night swallowed them both, leaving only whispers in the sand. The night was cold, and the wind carried dust across the empty road. The human walked ahead, his hands still, guiding the girl. Her chains rattled with each step, a soft but constant reminder of where she came from. They didn't speak for a while. Only the crunch of their boots and the low hum of her shackles filled the silence. But even in silence, the girl's presence was heavy. She walked like a queen disguised in rags, her head lifted, her silver violet eyes watching everything. Finally, she broke the silence. You didn't ask why the others refused me. The human didn't slow his steps. I don't care what they saw. I chose you. Her lips curved slightly, almost mocking. Foolish words. You don't even know what I carry. She pulled her wrist upward, making the iron chain glow faintly. Strange markings lit up beneath her skin-thin lines of light, curling into patterns too old to read. The glow spread across her arm, burning brighter for a heartbeat before fading. The human stopped. His eyes narrowed, but he didn't step back. That mark. Yes, she said, her voice sharp. The mark of the fallen line. My blood was bred for war. Entire cities fell when my people marched. That's why they locked me in that cage. I am not a servant. I am a weapon. She expected fear. She expected him to loosen his grip, maybe even push her away. But instead, he tilted his head slightly, studying her as if she were a puzzle. A weapon can still choose how it is used, he said. The girl blinked, surprised by his calm. And what if the weapon chooses to turn against you? Then I'll face it. His voice was steady, almost stubborn. For the first time, her proud mask cracked. She looked at him longer, searching for weakness, for fear in his eyes, but she found none. That unsettled her more than chains ever could. They reached a ruined shelter by the roadside, a collapsed stone hut. Half buried in sand, the human pushed aside a broken beam and guided her inside. The roof was open to the stars, but it gave them a place to rest. He pulled a cloth from his satchel and spread it on the ground. Then he sat, leaning against the wall, his eyes never leaving her. The girl remained standing. The torchlight flickered on her chained body, the faint marks under her skin glowing like whispers of fire. She crossed her arms, her pride unbroken. You don't ask my name, she said. You'll tell me when you want to, he replied simply. Again, his answer disarmed her. She turned her face away, hiding the confusion in her eyes. No master had ever spoken like this. No one had ever given her the choice of silence. Minutes passed. The desert wind howled outside. Finally she whispered, They call me Cerise. The human nodded. I'm Kale. Kale. She repeated his name slowly, as if tasting it. Then her eyes narrowed. Why did you buy me, Kale? You could have walked away like all the others. He looked at her with steady eyes. Because when I saw you, I knew you weren't meant to stay in that cage. She stared at him, her heart beating faster though she wouldn't admit it. His words pierced deeper than chains ever had. But before she could answer, a sharp sound came from outside, the crunch of boots on sand. Cerise turned, her glowing eyes narrowing. Kale reached for the knife at his belt. Shadows moved beyond the broken hut, circling like wolves. They followed us, Cerise whispered. The hunters. They don't let the marked escape. Kale tightened, his grip on the knife, ready to fight. But Cerise stepped closer, her chains glowing faintly with dangerous light. This is your last chance. Human, she said softly. Leave me. If you stay, you will bleed. But Kale's jaw hardened. "Then we bleed together." Cerise froze, staring at him. For the first time in her life, she felt something strange, a warmth that wasn't fire, a bond she didn't understand. Outside, the hunters closed in, their weapons glinting under the stars. The desert wind carried the smell of danger. Outside the broken hut, shadows moved in silence. 5, maybe 6 hunters. Their armor was black, their faces hidden behind masks carved with cruel designs. In their hands, plasma spears glowed faintly, ready to strike. Kale tightened his grip on his knife. It was small compared to their weapons, nothing more than sharpened steel, but he held it with steady hands. His eyes never wavered. Beside him, Cerise stood still. The chains on her wrists hummed, faint lines of light glowing like hot iron. Hunters had come for her, not for the human. She knew it, and yet. Kale did not step away. The first hunter spoke, his voice cold. "Human, you don't understand what you've taken. Hand her over, and we will let you live." Kale's jaw tightened. No. The word was simple, but it cut sharper than his knife. A low laugh echoed among the hunters. "Then you die with her." The first spear lunged forward. Kale dodged, the tip grazing his shoulder, burning his shirt. He rolled across the sand and slashed upward, his knife biting into the hunter's arm. Sparks flew as blood and plasma hissed together. The alien howled and fell back. Cerise watched, her eyes glowing brighter. He fought with no armor, no strength, like her kind, only human speed and stubbornness. And still, he drew blood. The other hunters circled, ready to strike. Kale backed against the wall, his breath quick, his body tense. He knew he couldn't win against them all. Then Cerise stepped forward. The hunters froze. Her chains glowed brighter, burning red like molten fire. The markings under her skin lit up, spreading across her arms, her neck, her face. The air itself seemed to tremble. One hunter shouted, "Restrain her!" Before too late, the chains burst into flames. Not fire of this world, blue and silver flames, alive and hungry. The lynx melted away, falling to the ground in glowing pieces. Her wrists were free. Kale stared, breath caught in his chest. For the first time, he saw what she truly was, not a slave, not a prisoner, a storm in human shape. Cerise raised her hand, and the ground itself shivered. The hunters staggered back as energy rippled from her, a wave of raw power. Her voice cut through the night, sharp and merciless. "You think chains can hold me?" The nearest hunter charged anyway, his spear aimed at her heart. She caught the weapon mid-strike. With one hand, she snapped the spear in two. With the other, she hurled him across the sand. His body hit the stones with a sickening crack. Kale didn't move. He should have been afraid, but he wasn't. His eyes locked on her, stunned by the sight of her true form. The remaining hunters hesitated, their courage faltering. One whispered, "She's awakened." Cerise turned, her eyes glowing silver fire. For a moment, Kale thought she would kill them all. The power around her roared, wild and untamed. But then her gaze fell on him. The fire trembled. Her power faltered. Her breath caught, for some reason she could not explain. Standing in front of this stubborn human made her chest feel tight, made her control slip. The hunters saw her hesitate. They roared and attacked again. Kale leapt forward, his knife slashing through the chaos. Together, man and alien fought, the storm and the steel. When the last hunter fell, silence returned. The sand was stained with blood and smoke. The stars above watched in cold silence. Cerise stood in the middle of it all, her power still flickering. Her chains lay broken at her feet, glowing like dying embers. Kale lowered his knife, breathing hard. His arm bled where the spear had grazed him, but he didn't care. He looked at her, eyes steady. "You're free now," he said. Cerise turned toward him slowly. Her voice was softer than before, but dangerous still. No human. You don't understand. She raised her glowing hand, the mark blazing across her skin. These chains were not holding me. They were holding the world safe from me. Cale's breath caught. For the first time, he realized what he had unleashed. The desert smelled of blood and smoke. Broken spears lay scattered across the sand, and the bodies of hunters cooled beneath the starlight. Cale wiped his knife clean on his torn sleeve, his arm still bleeding. His chest rose and fell with heavy breaths, but his eyes never left Cerise. Stood in the center of the ruins, her chains broken, her skin glowing faintly with lines of fire. The mark on her arm pulsed like a heartbeat, whispering of a power too ancient to belong to slaves. Cale finally spoke. You could have killed them all in seconds. Why hold back until now? Her gaze turned toward him, sharp and unreadable. Because I wanted to see what you would do. His jaw tightened. And what did you see? Her lips curved slightly. A human who fights like he's already dead, yet refuses to fall. Strange. Before he could answer, a deep horn echoed across the dunes. A low, mournful sound that made the ground tremble. Cerise's eyes darkened. They're coming, she whispered. Not hunters this time, wardens. Cale frowned. Wardens? She nodded slowly. Guardians of the marked. They exist for one purpose, to drag me back into chains. If they find us, they won't stop until one of us is dead. Cale glanced at the desert horizon. The faint glow of torches flickered in. The distance, moving closer like a river of fire. He turned back to her. Then we leave, now. Cerise tilted her head, studying him. You still want to keep me? Even after what you saw? Cale's answer was simple. Yes. For a moment, her proud mask cracked, her chest tightened, and she quickly looked away. Fool, she muttered, but her voice trembled just slightly. They fled into the night. The desert stretched endless before them, a sea of shadows under the silver moon. Cerise moved gracefully despite her exhaustion, her chains dragging but her steps light. Cale kept pace beside her, his knife still in hand. Behind them, the horn sounded again. Closer now. They reached a canyon cut deep into the earth. Jagged rocks rose high on both sides, forming a narrow path. Cerise stopped, her eyes narrowing. This place is cursed, she whispered. Cale glanced around. Cursed or not, it hides us. Reluctantly, she followed him inside. The canyon was silent, except for their footsteps. Strange symbols were carved into the rocks, glowing faintly as if alive. Cerise's mark pulsed in answer, and she stiffened. This is forbidden ground, she said sharply. My people sealed it long ago. If the wardens find us here, even I may not survive. Cale glanced back at her, his eyes steady. Then stay close to me. Her lips parted in disbelief. No one had ever spoken to her like that, not as a weapon, not as a monster, but as if she were human. Before she could reply, a rumble shook the canyon. The rocks glowed brighter, the air thick with power. From the shadows ahead, figures began to emerge. They were not hunters. They were taller, cloaked in armor of stone and flame, their eyes burning like furnaces. Each carried a massive blade that seemed carved from the canyon itself. Wardens, Cerise's breath caught. Cale, these are no ordinary enemies. They were created to bind my kind. They cannot be killed by steel. Cale raised his knife anyway. His voice was steady. Then we'll find another way. The wardens advanced, their heavy steps shaking. The ground. Cerise's mark blazed with furious light, answering their presence. Her power roared inside her, desperate to be unleashed. But deep in her chest, a new fear grew, not of the wardens, of herself. She knew if she lost control here, she would burn everything, including the stubborn human standing beside her. For the first time in her life, Cerise whispered the words she never thought she'd say. Cale, stay behind me. The canyon walls glowed faintly, their ancient carvings alive with light. Each step the wardens took made the symbols flare brighter, as if the stone itself obeyed them. Cale gripped his knife tighter, sweat dripping down his brow. He had faced hunters with spears, but these giants, these were something else. Cerise stood tall before him. Her mark blazed across her skin, answering the call of the canyon. Power trembled inside her, eager to break free. She clenched her fists, forcing herself to control it. If she let go fully, Cale might not survive her flames. The wardens stopped. Just a few steps away. Their voices rumbled like mountains shifting. Cerise of the fallen line, one intoned. By the oath of old blood, you are bound. Return to the chains or be destroyed. Cerise's eyes narrowed. I will never. Kneel again. The wardens raised their massive blades. The canyon shook. Dust rained from above. Cale moved to her side, his small knife almost laughable against their weapons. Then we stand together. She turned her head sharply, staring at him. You don't understand, Cale. My power isn't meant to save. It's meant to burn, to destroy everything around me. If I unleash it, nothing will be left, not even you. Cale's voice was calm. Then trust me to stand in the fire. Her chest tightened. She had never met anyone so reckless. Or so unshakable. The first warden charged. Its blade came down like falling stone. Cerise raised her hand instinctively, and her mark blazed. Silver-blue fire erupted, colliding with the strike. The canyon echoed with thunder. Cale was thrown back by the shockwave, but he rolled to his feet and lunged forward, slashing at the warden's leg. His knife barely scratched the stone armor, but the distraction gave Cerise the opening she needed. She unleashed a blast of fire, knocking the giant to its knees. The other wardens roared. Closing in, Cerise staggered, her breath ragged, using her power drained her faster than she expected. She whispered under her breath, words in an alien tongue. The canyon walls whispered back, the ancient carvings glowing in rhythm with her mark. Cale noticed. What are you saying? Her eyes flickered toward him, glowing fiercely. The canyon remembers me. It speaks. It tells me the truth. What truth? She hesitated, her voice trembling. That my power is not my own. It was given by something older, something that watches even now. Cale frowned. Something older? The warden swung again, cutting off her answer. Cerise raised both hands, fire blazing around her. Her power shook the canyon, but her control slipped. Stones cracked. The air burned. Cale rushed to her side, grabbing her wrist. His touch was warm, human, grounding. For a moment, the raging fire dimmed. She looked at him, startled. You're holding it back. He shook his head. No, you are. You just needed someone to remind you you're more than a weapon. Her heart pounded. The wardens roared again, but now Cerise felt something different. Not just the fire inside her, but a whisper of calm. A balance. She turned back to the wardens, her voice stronger. I am not your prisoner anymore. And I am not your weapon. I choose. Her flames surged again, but this time they didn't consume everything wildly. They wrapped around her like wings of light. The wardens faltered. For the first time they stepped back. Cale smiled faintly, blood dripping from his arm. Now that's power worth fearing. Cerise glanced at him, her lips parting. No, it's power worth protecting. But before she could say more, the canyon walls split open with a thunderous crack. From the fissure rose a towering figure cloaked in shadows, its voice ancient and heavy. You defy the oath, Cerise. You awaken what should remain buried. Cerise's eyes widened, her fire dimming. No, it can't be. Cale tightened his grip on his knife. Who is it? Cerise whispered, trembling for the first time. The one who gave me this mark. Asterisk. The fissure in the canyon burned with dark light. From it rose a towering figure, taller than even the wardens. Its body was made of shifting shadow, its eyes like two suns collapsing in on themselves. The air turned heavy, each breath harder. Then the last. Cale clenched his knife, though he knew it was useless. This was no ordinary enemy. Cerise stood frozen, her fire dimming, her voice a whisper. The source, the one who marked me. The shadow's voice shook the canyon. You were chosen, Cerise of the fallen line, born to carry my flame. And now, you dare to break the chain? You dare to choose a human over destiny? Cerise's chest tightened. The mark on her arm blazed, hotter and brighter, as if answering the call of its master. Pain shot through her veins, dropping her to one knee. Cale rushed forward, catching her before she fell. Cerise, she gritted her teeth. He's pulling me back. I can't fight him. Cale held her tightly, his voice steady despite the storm around them. Then don't fight alone. The shadow laughed, a sound like cracking stone. Foolish. Human, do you think your touch can break what I forged? But something strange happened. The moment Cale's hands touched hers, the burning mark flickered. The fire inside her pulsed wildly, then softened, as if confused. Cerise gasped, looking at him in shock. Your presence. It changes the flame. Cale met her eyes. Then hold on to me. Let's change it together. The wardens stirred, unsure, their blades trembling in the Ancient One's presence. Even they felt the shift. Cerise's heart pounded. For so long she had believed her mark was only destruction, only chains. But now Cale's warmth was bending it, reshaping it. For the first time, she wondered if her fire could protect instead of destroy. The shadow hissed. You cannot sever the bond between us. My mark is carved into your very soul. Cale stepped forward, still holding Cerise. His voice was firm. Then she will forge a new bond, one not with you, but with me. The canyon shook violently. The carvings on the walls glowed, brighter and brighter, as if the stone itself was listening. Cerise felt the mark on her arm twist painfully, like two forces fighting for control, darkness pulling one way, Cale's strength pulling the other. She screamed, fire bursting around her, lighting the canyon like a second sun. Cale did not let go. Even as flames licked his arms, burning his skin, he held her tighter. Through the roar, Cerise heard his voice. You are more than a weapon. You are more than his chain. You are Cerise, and you are free. Her fire answered. It surged upward, brighter than ever, but instead of tearing everything apart, it wrapped around them both like living light. Her mark blazed, then split half dark, half shining silver. The shadow howled in fury. Impossible. No one breaks my claim. Cerise rose to her feet, Cale's hand still holding hers. She looked at the ancient being with fire in her eyes. I am not yours anymore. My power belongs to me, and to the one who dared to stand in its flames. The wardens faltered, their blades lowering. For the first time in their existence, they saw the mark resist its master. Cale's arm was scorched, his strength fading. But he managed a faint smile. See, you're not alone anymore. Cerise turned toward him, and for the first time, her voice softened. Cale, you've bound yourself to me, not with chains, but with something stronger. The ancient shadow recoiled, its form shattering into cracks of darkness. This bond, it will destroy you both. The fissure trembled, collapsing, but before vanishing, the being hissed a final warning. You cannot escape me, Cerise. Every bond has a price. Then the canyon fell silent. The wardens turned to stone, lifeless once more. Only Cale and Cerise remained, standing amidst the fading fire. She looked at him, her silver violet eyes softer than ever. You could have let me go. Why didn't you? Cale's answer was simple. Because bonds worth keeping are never easy. Cerise's heart raced. For the first time in her life, she felt something stronger than the fire inside her. Something she couldn't name, but feared more than any chain. The canyon was silent now, but the silence felt heavy. The wardens had turned back into stone. The fissure that birthed the shadow had sealed shut, leaving behind only black cracks across the rock. Cale leaned against the canyon wall, his arms scorched and bleeding. His breaths were shallow, but his eyes remained sharp, still watching her. Still refusing to let go, Cerise stood in front of him, her fire slowly fading. The mark on her skin no longer blazed with wild fury. Instead, it pulsed gently, as if it was listening to her heart. For the first time, she was in control, and yet, the shadow's words clung to her mind. Every bond has a price. Cale coughed, forcing a smile. Looks like we made it. Cerise dropped to her knees beside him. Fool, you burned yourself for me. Why? Because. He met her eyes, his voice rough but steady. No one deserves to live in chains, not even you. Her chest tightened. She wanted to argue, to remind him that she was dangerous, that his life was too small a thing to wager against her fire. But when she looked at him, she saw no fear. Only faith. She had never been given faith before. Only commands. Only chains. Ice lowered her gaze. If you stay with me, Cale, the shadow will return. He will not stop. He will take me back or destroy you trying. Cale chuckled weakly. Then let him try. Her eyes widened. His stubbornness. It shook her more than the wardens ever had. But deep inside, fear grew. She had two choices. One path meant leaving him behind, walking alone, carrying her fire as she was meant to alone, cursed, eternal. The other path meant staying by his side, but risking that her bond with him would consume them both. The canyon wind whispered around them. Her silver violet eyes shimmered as she whispered, "You don't even know what I feel." Cale's smile faded. "Then tell me." Her voice cracked, softer than fire, raw with truth. "For the first time, I don't want to be free. I want to be yours." Cale froze. His chest ached, not from his wounds, but from her words. He reached up, his burned hand trembling, and touched her cheek. "You already are," he whispered. Her heart thundered. The mark pulsed, brighter and brighter, as if answering the truth between them. The ground beneath them shook one last time. A distant roar echoed, the shadow's voice carried through stone and wind. "You've chosen him, Cerise. Then both your fates are sealed." The light from her mark surged, wrapping around them both. The canyon cracked, fire and shadow colliding high above. For a moment, it seemed the world itself held its breath, and then silence. Cerise clutched Cale close, her eyes burning with a mix of fear and desire. She whispered against his ear, "If this bond destroys me, promise me you'll never let go." Cale's voice was steady, even as his body weakened. "I promise." The canyon collapsed behind them, sealing the past forever. Only the night sky remained, endless and open. Together, they stepped out of the canyon, no longer master and slave, no longer weapon and wielder, but something else entirely. Something dangerous, something powerful, something new. The world would never be the same again.